Welcome to Healing from Grief and Loss, where top experts guide you on your journey to find strength, comfort, and joy again. I'm Andrea, your host, and on today's show, we have the lovely guest expert, Anne DeButte. I'm so excited to have you. Welcome.
Thank you, Andrea. It's an absolute pleasure, and thank you for reaching out for me to be on this show. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure having you. So Anne is a certified grief coach and guide. She's also an author. And through chatting, I have found that Anne and I have something in common. We have both lost our fathers. My dad was a number of years ago, but my father-in-law, the death of his, the anniversary of his death was actually just the other day, June 8th. So it's still pretty strong, and I still struggle a little bit. He was such my husband is so much like him. So just such a good man, and everybody loved him. He was just so respected, and yeah, we still miss Jack, that's for sure. So I would love it if you shared your story, Anne, about your dad and your journey and anything that you'd like to share with the audience today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrea. You brought up an amazing point. The anniversary of a loss is something that will potentially trigger us. We're not going to immediately go into that intense grief when they died, but there will be a tenderness, a moment of sadness. And I think that can kind of catch people unaware. So I always attempt to help my clients to look at the year ahead and mark down those, what we call the firsts, as a way of preparing yourself. What would you like to do on that day to honor that person? And it might just be sitting journaling. It might be going to visit the graveside. It might be having the family together. But whatever it is, it needs to come from you, so that you're not out doing something and all of a sudden you're triggered by the memory. So if you plan for it, it can be another opportunity for you to go into the grief. There's always remnants, and it's an opportunity for you to continue the grief. So thank you for leading us into that. I hope that was helpful.
I like that. I thank you. I love that idea of planning, the next year. Whether it's the same thing every year or maybe each year you want to do something a little different, but just planning for that day in memory of. I like that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Now, I think you asked me what my experience was. I'm very good at deflecting, have you noticed? And unfortunately, when you're with your clients, it's all about them. It's never about you. So I can do that so naturally. So I apologize. Yeah, the death of my dad, I never recall exactly how long ago it was. To me, that is not important. He's just no longer in my life. And I was probably close to, I was late 50s when Dad chose to leave this earth. And it's, even though people say, well, he's older, he lived a good life. Yeah, that's true. But you can never prepare yourself. There's never a good time for a parent to leave you. It's almost as if that little child comes back out again, and the fear, the abandonment, because we've never known our lives without our fathers. So Dad died very suddenly, and I didn't even get to say goodbye. There were a lot of events leading up to it that I could so have beat myself up. But the further I got away from it and worked through it, I saw those as teachable moments and learning opportunities. And that's the guilt and the blame. If I hadn't have been so careless, and I couldn't even remember how to get to the hospital. That's how ridiculous it was. I was all over the map. I shouldn't even have been driving, but I could have so gone into the blame. Got to the hospital. We were able to be with Dad. There was just Mum and I. All our family are in Britain. And it was one of those surreal moments. And it's almost as if your life stops. Because I remember when we were ready, we left the hospital, Mum and I, arm in arm. And I couldn't believe I got outside. The traffic was going by. People were chit-chatting backwards and forwards. Life was continuing. But to me, ours had stopped. And I just felt this overwhelming anger. And I wanted to shout, don't you know my dad has just died? Which sounds like a very childish reaction, doesn't it? So that sort of shows where I was at in that moment. But I didn't. Being British, my mum being British, that would not have been allowed. We don't make scenes. So instead, I shoved it back down, kind of gave myself a shake, grabbed Mum's arm, and stoically walked to the car, and off we went. But it's just moments like that the whole event seems so surreal. I just wanted somebody to come and be with us, to take charge. But we didn't. There was just each other. So that was it.
Yeah.
November the 11th. I'll remember that one.
Yeah, when you say, time stops, and for you, every year you're stuck, but everyone around you is moving, and it just brought me back to my father and his funeral, and I couldn't wrap my head around why were people laughing and eating. Like, this isn't a time to sit and have little sandwiches and cheese and crackers and cup of coffee and shoot the breeze and laugh. I'm like, why are people laughing? Why are people eating? Like, I just was mortified. I'm like, why aren't you crying? Why aren't you angry? What are you doing? So of course, my sister and my husband sort of led me away before I, continued on with my tirade. But um, my ranting and raving. So yeah, it's such an odd feeling to sort of be floating around where you're just wondering why others are behaving the way they do. Yeah, so I totally relate to
Yeah.
that. So how did you start to move on? Like, what got you up every day after your dad passed? What made you get up in the morning?
It was my mum. We were now my mum's caregiver. She was living in the apartment alone, wanted to remain there, wouldn't come and live with us. So it was attempting to grieve, but taking care of her life. And then probably about 3 months after Dad died, Mum was diagnosed with bronchitis? No, a pneumonia. So they sent her for x-rays and they discovered that she had small cell carcinoma. So this was about 6 months now after Dad had died. And that took a lot of my energy. And I had a girlfriend whose mom had died of the same lung cancer. So we were truly expecting this for Mum. So I was grieving my dad and I was grieving Mum at the same time. I am very fortunate because even though I have a nursing background, I've also been on the spiritual path for eons. So I was able to rely on my own spiritual tools, if you like. And I also have a wonderful community of spiritual friends. So I would go for healing, I would go for guidance, I would chat with them. So even though I didn't feel that I was emotionally, I knew I wasn't in that emotional turmoil, but I had to stay strong for Mom and she was staying strong for me. So it was just circumstances. So it probably would be when Mum had Alzheimer's, we discovered afterwards. And every day we would take her for treatment and she was very good. She got dressed, she met us and off we went. Where are we going? And I would say, we're going to get your radiation treatment. And we made a little game of it. And she would say, oh my, I have cancer. Well, death and cancer were two things that we did not bring up in our household because Mum was terrified of both of them. I swear, because she didn't accept it. She cured herself. She didn't have lung cancer and she continued. And it was at that 6-month mark that I realized that I needed help. And that was when I sought my own coach. She was a life coach, but she was also an energy worker. So my soul, my spiritual needs were being taken care of as she was helping me move through what I needed to do and basically reconnect to who I was. So does that answer that question?
Yes, thank you for sharing that. It must have been tough with your mom. That would have been hard to go through also. So was there a time where you felt that you weren't going to be happy again or just feel joy or just feel, if I can use the word, normal? Because it's okay, of course, to not feel normal. But was there a time where you just thought, oh, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to find joy again? Did you ever feel that?
Oh gosh, absolutely. And I think that was what took me to talk to a friend who suggested this other friend, my life coach and the person that did the energy healing, because I just didn't know, or I couldn't see the future. I just felt life was like that. I was going through the motions. In fact, I was absolutely overwhelmed because I was grieving Dad's loss, but I was also the caregiver and watching my mum decline, or possibly Mum's death as well. Fortunately, my sister and my daughter both live in the UK. They would come over and sort of help. And that was always good because we could talk and it would lift my spirits. But it was really going on my own personal journey with my life coach that I discovered it's okay to have joy. And that's where the idea of the death happens, a challenge happens, you go through the turmoil of the loss. But I began to look at it as a quest to find who I was. And that seemed to sort of help me. So that probably was 3 months. So we're now 9 months into it. And it was at that time I realized I was desperately unhappy in my job. I loved my job. I worked in a hospital. I was no longer nursing, but I was in that environment. And there was just all kinds of things going on. And I heard early on that they were looking for potential people to take early retirement. I put my hand up, and my bosses were both horrified. I said, I don't care. I need to get out of here. I retired. So this probably would be about 2 years. It's, as I say, the time is all one to me. Year one, I did go on a retreat, and I did do a lot of grief work there. Art therapy helped me on. Year two, I had found grief coaching, and I was taking my certification. And it was exactly on the 2nd-year anniversary that I put my hand up and went all in. I'm doing this grief coaching. I don't care. I'm doing it. So it was very pivotal points throughout my 3-year journey, if you like. That's probably how long I was in it, in that turmoil, in that indecision. I kind of call that middle part where you never think that you're going to get out of it and find joy or hope again. And it's almost, I think, because you haven't quite let go of the past and the present hasn't quite presented itself to you. And I don't know if that's sort of the waiting period, the gestation. I mean, we're so anxious. We want to do, get on, go on, get on. But I think that was a moment of pause for me to really decide, okay, what do you want to do with the rest of your life?
Yes, thank you. That totally makes sense. It is. I feel I went through the same thing. It was just sort of a pause. What is my purpose? Like, what am I doing? I don't know how I'm gonna, find happiness again. And it's sort of it's just an odd feeling because you were so happy at one point, and then because I'm such a happy person normally, it's like it just wasn't me. Like, where did Andrea go? Like, I just had such a hard time. And then I think once I started sort of, being a little kinder to myself and realizing, this is my grief and I've got to just go through the motions of it and, you know, take what time I need. And then it's almost like a cocoon. I came out of the cocoon and, immersed, not myself again, like I think just a bigger and better and brighter version of myself. And yeah, it's hard because you don't want to, you're guilty because you feel guilty because you don't want to be happy. You don't, you're like, you still want to grieve, but so it's just it's a fine line at times. But I almost feel something clicks and it's like, I got this. This is good. I'm feeling good again. I can do this. I can still, have my moments, but so yeah, it is. I like that sort of, what you say about that pause. You're sort of in that little bit of a lull, and then you come out. You just come out that other side. And I feel people are stuck right now, and they just don't know how they're going to come out. On or up onto the mountain again. And so what would you share? So if some of my viewers are going through grief right now, where they've lost a parent, what are a few things you could share with them right now as far as just helping with them and their healing process? What could you share?
I think it's in the initial stages, it's important to talk about them. Talk, 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 talk. Journal, 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 journal if you can't find somebody to talk to. Because that's helping the brain make sense of what's going on. It's also helping you to see more of who that person, our dads, were. Sharing stories with siblings. Because dad was sort of the last of his siblings, there's only us cousins, and all my cousins are in Scotland. I felt the need and desire to connect with them. And by doing so, I heard more stories. So I think that connecting to family is so important. And to reach out and share your stories and to ask what this person's life was like, because I found out so much more about my parents' life. I realized that, and I wished I had have taken more of an interest, because all of a sudden I'm the eldest in our family. I'm the record keeper. So when you're hearing your stories, if you can find some way to record them, so that you can pass them along. So talking, connection, getting support, even if it's a trusted family member, a good friend. And if you can't find anybody, there's lots of support groups. That helps to sort of normalize what you're going through, because you don't want to be a burden on anybody. You're scared to death that you're going to be emotional the moment. And that to me is the silliest thing ever. We all need to learn to get over that, be emotional. I wish that they create the container at the funerals. They bring you into that sadness. I wish they would allow us to feel sad, just as you felt at your dad's, Andrea, and couldn't understand why people were laughing and chitty-chatting. I think once you've had that good darn cry, then it's nature's way of balancing the emotions. You will feel better. So spend time, even making time. If you're working, especially, set a time after supper when you're going to sort of go into your feelings and your emotions and write about them and feel them and allow yourself to cry. Then even set a timer. You don't have to stay at this for hours. It can be a quick 10-15 minute, but you're allowing the emotions out. Have a bath, put on a funny movie, so that you're changing the energy. And if you stay with your sad feelings long enough, they will change. They will go. And there may be an emptiness, but it's going to be filled up with something, and you may find yourself laughing uncontrollably. So that's what I would say to somebody. Don't be afraid of their emotions. Take time to feel them, write about them. And it's okay to not be okay. Stop beating yourself up with the guilt, the blame. We could go into a whole other summit just for that, but that would be what I'd say.
Thank you. Thank you. That's some pretty wonderful advice. Thank you so much. I love that.
You're very welcome.
Well, before we sign off, is there anything else that you'd like to share with my audience today?
Well, if they're interested, I do believe that you can heal from grief. Being an ex-nurse, I've seen the body do a remarkable job of healing. Why not our hearts? And I've created this free ebook that takes you through 12 ways that you can begin to think about your grief a little differently than the traditional model.
Okay, thank you.
That would how I'd love them to have it.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So we will offer that link below the video, and people can go into that, and they can go to your website and touch base with you if they'd like, and learn more about you and the 12 steps of healing. That's so wonderful. Thank you.
You're so very welcome. Thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity on your summit to hopefully give hope and encouragement to those who may be in the throes of grief right now.
Right. Thank you. Well, there you have it. What a wonderful conversation with Anne today. I love talking to you, Anne. I know we could talk forever, but we're not going to. But thank you. It's always such a pleasure. I adore you, and you have so much wisdom, and I enjoy your energy, and such a pleasure having you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for creating this amazing opportunity for others to listen. Yes. And hopefully heal. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to my audience for tuning in today. I hope something touched your soul. I know some things have touched mine today. Again, I always love listening to Anne. So I hope something touched your soul today. And until the next time, be safe and be kind to yourself. Give yourself time, the time you need, as long as it takes. And just remember the biggest thing, you are not alone. So bye for now. We'll see you again.